So anyway, in terms of the Le'Veon Bell story, what do you guys think? I mean,
Mark, you can go ahead and start this one off. Let me know what you think.
Well, I think it's sad to see him leave Pittsburgh. I mean, he's done so much for the team in such a little time, but of course, you know, people have to move on with their careers. And I believe two teams that are very suitable for him is, he was kind of touching on Indianapolis Colts. I believe that's one of a good teams that is good for him because that offense kind of revamped themselves. They had a great draft for drafting offensive lines and offensive linemen that really kept Andrew Luck on his feet because last year was rough, or the year after that, because he was hurt pretty much all last year. It was rough for him. He was getting knocked down every second he looked.
Yeah.
So their offense took a jump, and I believe adding Le'Veon Bell to the fold to that offense will really push the Colts up to like a great playoff contention, maybe a Super Bowl contender. Second place is in the Bay Area, the Oakland Raiders. Marshawn Lynch, it seems like it's every year he's kind of declining since he came back to the league. It's been rough. They don't know if they're going to sign him again to bring him back. I mean, they are possibly staying in Oakland for another 2 years, so of course he wants to play for his hometown.
Right.
But if Marshawn Lynch decides not to play, Le'Veon Bell can come in and really help that Raiders offense and help Derek Carr out with a great running game to open up more passing options for maybe play action.
Okay.
And they can throw it deep downfield to some of the receivers that the Raiders have. And I believe that offense will really benefit with him being there in the Bay Area. So those are two teams that are possibly good for him.
Well, to keep up the whole Bay Area Notion team, I feel like a surprise team for the Le'Veon Bell signing is the San Francisco 49ers. And I know we had discussed last week about Antonio Brown being a potential, trade piece for them to give Jimmy Garoppolo, who's coming off ACL injury, another target to work with. I feel like Le'Veon Bell could definitely, be a good signing for them. They did have, Matt Breida was their leading rusher last year. They also signed Jerick McKinnon. But when you have the opportunity to bring a top 5 player, to your team, you don't discount that just because you had a good season out of Matt Breida. And there's also no guarantee that he's going to repeat the same type of season that he had last year for the Niners.
Well, I don't know. I've always been a notion that the 49ers, Matt Breida is good, and when Jerick McKinnon comes back healthy, he'll be good as well. So I don't really see any need for Le'Veon Bell to join the 49ers. I mean, if you take a look at Bell's stats, and this is over the course of his career, dating back to 2013, all with Pittsburgh. He's rushed the ball 1,229 times for 5,336 yards, 35 touchdowns, a career-long rush of 81, 4.3 yards a rush, 86.1 yards per game on 19.8 attempts per game. So when you take a look at that in terms of yards and attempts per game, those are pretty average numbers, but when he was in Pittsburgh, they got the job done. Yeah,
I mean, when it comes down to it, I still feel like, regardless of like what the Niners have, I just feel like, well, one, when you look at their cap space, they're number 5 in going into the offseason with $76 million in cap space. So obviously you can, free up some of that room for Le'Veon Bell, trading, Matt Breida or Jerick McKinnon to a different team that's looking to add a running back, to their running back room. But when you look at the last time Le'Veon Bell played, that was in 2017. One, he had over 1,200 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns. He had 85 receptions for 655 receiving yards. When you take a look at the production that this man has had over the last 2 seasons, the last 2 seasons that he should play, because he didn't play last year, and that's one of the things that you have to take into account is that he doesn't have the extra mileage on his body that the Steelers were putting on, because they basically gave him that DeMarco Murray treatment, like, we're going to run you a lot, you want to catch a lot of passes, and basically they understand that in the NFL, running backs don't have a long shelf life. But taking that into account, I feel like that extra year off last year helped him a lot, because basically he was saying that $14 million Pittsburgh that you want to give me isn't worth, the $30 to $45 million guarantee that he's looking for in a deal this offseason.
Yeah, and when he comes back, whoever gets him, he's going to be fresh, and he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to run the ball because he's going to prove to, of course, the Steelers. He may not say it, but he wants to prove that he can still he's still a top 5 back in the NFL. So he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to run this next year.
You don't think that the 1 year layover that he's had in between 2017 and 18, you don't think it's going to play a factor in any way in terms of rust or in terms of whether or not he's lost any athleticism in his running abilities?
No, I
don't think so either.
I think the way he runs, because he's really patient runner. I think he still is going to have, as long as he has the vision that he has. I think none of that rust or anything is going to hold him back. He's going to be still nice.
And I just think from the running back position, it's more helpful for him because, like I said, there's less touches that he has. So your body's getting hit less. There's less dings that he's getting throughout the season. And when you look at when he last played in 2017, he was the number 1 rated running back by Pro Football Focus, and he basically won that award. He was 30 in rushing that season, and he won that over LaShawn McCoy with the Bills, who's been a top 5 running back each season, Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley, and Jordan Howard during that season. Now, Jordan Howard did have a down year last year, but when you take a look at the production that he's had in Pittsburgh, he's had 1,884 yards from scrimmage in 2016 and over 1,900 yards from scrimmage in 2017. That's a lot of production coming out of the running back position. And when you're having over 70-plus receptions out of the backfield, that's a nice way, to have Jimmy Garoppolo. He basically has a security blanket. Of course, he's going to have Kittle at the tight end position, and then they're going to add a receiver in free agency. But when you have that opportunity to add a player like that, I feel like that's something that you have to consider. Like even with the Colts, they're a potential Super Bowl team. They have 107 million in cap space, and I feel like that's if any team would sign him, it would be the Colts.
I mean, I think Le'Veon Bell is one of those guys who kind of just embodies the running back, the quintessential running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tough downhill runner, smash mouth style of football that the Steelers used to seeing, like Jerome Bettis back in the 90s, or Franco Harris of the Steelers of the Steel Curtain day of the 70s. I mean, Le'Veon Bell is kind of like the resurgence of those two. So I'm sure it's sad to see him go from Pittsburgh, but in terms of where he's going to go next, we'll find out.